Today I'll be ranking every single card in Clash Royale for the new meta, from the very worst all the way to the very best. The very worst card in the game right now has to be the Barbarian Hut. Goblin Hut is just like a million times better, and there's just so many better options in every single scenario. Next we have the Three Musketeers, which I feel like are just way too hard to play because everyone either has Lightning, Fireball, Poison, or Monk, and even Evo Archers can do the same thing for 1/3 of the cost. At number 117, guys, is going to be the Wizard. Now, in this tier list here today, I'm not going to be taking into account a card's evolution. We're just ranking the base card. And the Wizard by itself is just so bad right now with all the lightning going around, and really you could just play any other ranged unit, like, for example, a Musketeer, Archer Queen, anything else. Honestly, the Mirror is just not very good right now, because I feel like if you ever have a deck that could use Mirror, you might as well just make it a really quick cycle deck instead of adding the Mirror, so you can get to whatever card you need a lot instead of mirroring it. It's only good if a card is really broken. Surprisingly, there was one person who finished in the top 200 last season using Lava Clone, but Clone is just not the best right now with all the Firecracker, Poison, and Electro Spirits going around to kill the cloned units. Rune Giant actually got a small buff in the last balance changes, guys, but I just don't think it's going to be enough, man. The Rune Giant just doesn't really get as much value as before out of the enchantments, because when it dies, all the enchanted units pretty much lose their enchants after just like a couple seconds, so it's not the best. Honestly, guys, Skeleton Army is not that terrible of a card. Like, it's not that far from being viable, but there's just so many really broken other options, like, for example, Guards, Goblin Gang, all of that kind of stuff. Elite Barbarians used to be pretty good in stuff like Bridge Spam and some giant decks, maybe RG, but now they're just used in nothing because you might as well play Barbs in all of those Bridge Spam decks, and in Sparky, stuff like Mini Pekka is just a better option. I would low-key put Furnace higher than this, but just because of the fact that Goblin Hut is meta and is so much better, I'm putting Furnace kind of low. It is actually somewhat viable in RG decks sometimes in the good metas, but now it's just not one of them. This might surprise a lot of you guys, but at number 110 we do have the Witch. If we were talking about the Evolved Witch, I'd rank this quite differently, but for the normal Witch, it just gets wrecked by really any spell in the game, and it's really easy to counter with like a Golden Knight, you know, Poison, Lightning, anything. Even though Void is pretty low on our list, guys, it actually has been seen a couple times recently in random Elixir Golem decks and stuff like that. It does do decent damage, just not as much as before, so you can't quite take out all the units you need to, and it's not super hard to block it either. Unfortunately, Battle Healer really just has no place in this meta. It was sometimes good in stuff like Elixir Golem or Golem before, but Golem is so bad right now, nobody actually plays that deck, and Elixir Golem just doesn't even seem to actually use Battle Healer these days. The Rascals are a card that can actually be pretty dominant in certain matchups when the opponent has no good spell to take them out, like, for example, against Golem decks they can be really good, but there is so much Golden Knight right now to counter them, and basically everyone has Logger Arrows, so it's not really the best meta for Rascals. Electro Dragon is actually straight dookie right now, man. It doesn't really fit in any meta deck. Like, nobody's playing Golem, nobody's playing Balloon. Really, any deck that it could fit in is just bad in the meta. And even the Evolution, which I'm not even taking into account, even the Evolution Electro Dragon is kind of suckish right now, because if you Lightning the E-Drag, it doesn't matter whether it's evolved or not. Man, the downfall of Golem needs to be studied, guys. I feel like the decks right now that are popular just have way too much pressure to the point where you can never really build up a good Golem push. And also some stuff has started to creep back in the meta, like Pekka Goblin Giant, which is just way too good against Golem. Man, I really wish the Giant Skeleton were good against so I could play it with Hog, but unfortunately, guys, it just doesn't really have a special ability, I feel like. That's the issue with it. Like, it has that bomb, but it doesn't really do that much compared to, like, a Golden Knight ability, a Mighty Monitor ability, anything like that, and it kind of sucks against Witch as well. Executioner without the evolution is honestly just not really playable. I mean, it's hardly playable at all, especially after the Tornado got a nerf as well, which is one of the best pairings with the Executioner. Guys, I'm telling you, Minion Horde would not be that bad of a card if they made arrows not meta. I don't know, I feel like it's really just the arrows holding this card back, but then again, there are a lot of other things like Executioner and stuff like that, so you guys can let me know in the comments what you would do to buff Minion Horde. I'm not even sure how they could make it viable. The Skeleton Barrel is a card that I think is not super far off being viable. It might just need some very small buff, like a little bit more HP or something, because right now Spear Goblins and stuff just wreck it and get a nice counter push off of it. Dude, Goblin Curse is actually not that bad of a card, guys. If you surprise your opponent at the right time with it, you can just win a whole game, but most of the time, it's not as good or as consistent as other small spells. Elixir Golem had a short period where it was viable, but those Elixir Golem quick cycle decks with like the Goblin Machine and Skeleton King kind of fell off after the Minor Poison decks became really meta, so it just doesn't really have a good place right now. Mini Pekka in theory should be a decent card, but I feel like almost every deck has a better option, like for example Prince or Lumberjack. Mini Pekka just doesn't really have a good spot right now. The Zappies really struggle in this meta because most decks that are Beatdown have arrows and a zap or something to take them out, and if a deck isn't Beatdown, it just has Golden Knight to absolutely destroy them. I feel like Sparky took a really big hit just because of the fact that the meta has so much lightning right now, and there's a lot of resets going around because of the Evo Inferno Dragon, which indirectly does give a nerf to Sparky. Man, the one place that Phoenix could actually be used in, guys, was the Electro Giant deck, but now stuff like Baby Dragon and Inferno Dragon has started to box it out, even of those decks, so it's just a mid card that does something, but other cards do its job better. Graveyard Freeze actually did finish in the top 10 last season, so I feel like Freeze is not a bad card, it just needs the right deck and the right meta. Right now, the meta's okay for it, you can play it. There's not really many Balloon Freeze decks though, so I can't really rank it higher. There's only Graveyard. The main use of Inferno Tower is just to counter big tanks, guys, but Inferno Tower is hardly used right now over stuff like Cannon, because even the big tank decks always seem to have Lightning, and all these Ram Rider decks always have Lightning too, so Inferno Tower never really gets that much value these days. The Barbarians are actually viable right now in this meta in some bridge spam decks, but I feel like the Evolution carries them quite a bit, and also in stuff like Lava Hound, it does have quite a bit of competition, like, for example, the Valkyrie, so they're not really as good as they used to be, but they're a decent card. Man, recruits without the Evolution are so bad, guys. It's actually crazy. It's night and day difference between the normal recruits and the Evo. And also, guys, there's just so much stuff that can destroy them right now, like the Witch is such a good counter, and Golden Knight also can dash on them really easily. The issue with Tombstone right now is that Goblin Hut is a spawner just like Tombstone, and also can distract stuff, but it's just 10 times better. Gives a much better counter push, and yeah, Tombstone just sucks against stuff like Golden Knight. I keep on mentioning Golden Knight, but it's true, man. It just sucks against the meta. The Goblin Demolisher got a small buff to the time it stays on the field after it gets into its second form, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the card to be good. There are just so many better options like the 2 Elixir Bomber, and I don't really see it being meta until it gets maybe a little bit of a bigger buff to, I don't know, like its attack speed or some better way for it to connect to towers. Right now, Ice Golem is really only used in that one minor balloon deck, and I think the reason why it's not being used more is because we have other 2 Elixir tanks now, like the Berserker, which can also attack stuff. So Ice Golem is just okay. Nothing special, though. Bomb Tower is simply getting overshadowed really badly right now by other buildings, and you don't really need the splash that it gives because you can just play stuff like Valkyrie in your deck if you're struggling against Witch, for example. Mega Minion really doesn't have a place in the meta right now. It's only really used in a couple giant decks here and there, but Lava Hound has swapped it out for Skelly Drags, which just give way better offense, and yeah, there's just better options all around. The Suspicious Bush is not meta by any means, but it low-key is creeping in the meta a little bit. Sometimes you can play it in a Mega Knight deck or some sort of bait deck. It just is a good card to put yourself in a positive elixir type of situation. The delivery is actually not bad right now, but there's a lot of split lane pressure decks going around, and the delivery can only stop one lane, but when it turns into a split lane push, it can really struggle. To be completely honest with you, I think the Goblinstein should be a lot better than this ranking, guys, but it's just not played at all right now, and I don't really think it's good just because of the meta, because Boss Bandit is such a hard counter to it, and there's just so many better champions. You can only have one champion in a deck at a time, so people can't really play the Goblinstein right now. The Night Witch is really struggling to find its place in this meta, I feel like. I mean, it was viable in certain, I want to say, giant graveyard decks and stuff like that, but giant graveyard is not very good this meta, and with Executioner being meta, that's pretty bad for the Night Witch. The Lumberjack by itself is really nothing special. I mean, even with the evolution, it is struggling right now a little bit. It's sometimes used in giant and stuff like that, but in these bridge spam decks, instead of using Lumberjack, people pretty much always decide to go for other 3 or 4 elixir pressure cards. Dude, I swear the Baby Dragon is broken, guys, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to perform that well in this meta. I don't know why, but it can work in graveyard decks, and that's really it. Once in a while, Lava Hound, but stuff like Skeleton Dragons do better than it in Lava Hound usually, and the 2 cards are just way too similar. The Little Prince actually got a small buff to its ability, guys, but I still feel like the Little Prince ability is really bad. I think the base card itself is not a bad card, but I feel like they still need to buff the ability a little bit more, because right now it's really only good to get that 3-card cycle out of, but not too much else. Honestly, I maybe could have rated the Flying Machine a bit higher than this. It's kind of sneakily good in some Lava Hound Lightning decks, and there are Recruits decks running it, but a lot of the meta Recruits decks right now just have bridge spam cards like Goblin Gang and things like that, and not actually the Fireball Bait versions. Guys, I could have ranked Mega Knight lower, but I'm just predicting that Mega Knight is going to be really good this meta, because the Evolved Inferno Dragon fits really well in Mega Knight decks, I believe, so I think Mega Knight with the Evo Inferno Dragon could be a really hard combo to stop, and I mean, Mega Knight's not the worst in this meta, you know, it counters Witch and stuff like that, but if you run into Pekka decks, you are in big trouble. There are a lot of spells right now to counter the Elixir Collector, guys, but luckily Earthquake is not that popular. A lot of Earthquake decks decided to put Lightning over that Earthquake, so it is a bit more viable now. It kind of works in certain bridge spam decks, especially. Surprisingly, Goblin Machine actually has started to see a bit of use in the meta. It's not bad in certain Goblin Giant decks, and you could throw it in weird no-skill decks like Elixir Golem as well. It's kind of just like that no-skill card that plays for you. It's really easy to play, and it just has okay stats. The Heal Spirit is not that good, guys, but Spirits just randomly will connect when they shouldn't, and one Heal Spirit connecting at the right time can win you the game, so just based off that fact, Heal Spirit is a decent card. It works in Giant and some bridge spam. Musketeer right now really just feels like a balanced card. It's viable in balloon decks and stuff like that, but the main reason is from the Evo, in my opinion, so I think the normal Musketeer is viable, but just not really the best right now, because there are champion options for ranged units, and there's stuff like Ice Wizard, and just a few better things to counter the meta. I feel like the Dark Prince is also quite a balanced card. I mean, it can counter Goblin drills pretty nicely, it can support your Giant pushes pretty well, maybe even fit in some E-Giant decks, but stuff like the Royal Ghost is just cheaper, and it can go invisible too, which makes it apply a lot more pressure. Man, guys, I feel like I have not faced the Goblins in a very long time. People always decide to play Guards, Goblin Gangs, Skeletons, anything else except Goblins right now. They are playable, though, especially in like the duels format of CRL. I feel like a good amount of people will use them because you can only use each card once, so you sometimes have to get creative, because Goblins really aren't that bad. They're just better options. Honestly, guys, the Evolved Battle Ram is actually very strong right now. Like, behind a big Pekka push, if you have no good reset for it, it can sometimes just be literally impossible to stop, but the normal Ram is just okay. It gets decent value. You know, it doesn't get fully countered by stuff like a cannon, which is pretty nice, but it's not the most consistent win condition like a Hog Rider. Oh boy, Prince was really having his time to shine, but right now he's been unfortunately just limited to Giant decks, really, because he's so hard to run in this meta when there's all this Witch going around, and you could put Lightning in your Prince deck, but it's just so much Elixir, so Prince does get wrecked pretty easily. There's also a lot of Guards, too, so yeah. Simply based on the fact that Xbow is extremely broken right now, I feel like Archers have to be up here. They're not bad at all, you know, they're not used as much as certain other ranged cards, but you can split them, you can have good field control with them, and they're just a cheap card that is overall very solid at countering a lot of stuff like graveyards and really anything. Fire Spirit actually got a buff a little bit ago to its jump distance, I believe, but it seems like most decks that would normally run Fire Spirit are just not that good right now, so Ice Spirit and Electro Spirit seem to be doing much better. Giant did have quite a fall off. It's kind of just like a mid-tier card right now. You can run some Giant Beatdown decks, but stuff like Giant Graveyard fell off, Giant Sparky fell off, so it's a little bit more limited now than it was before. It's a decent card, but a lot of the meta decks right now can build up really big counter pushes against your Giant if you don't support it properly, so it's a little bit risky to run right now. The Cannon card actually did get a small buff to its HP, but it just kind of lost its shield a little while ago, and that seems to have affected it a good amount. A good amount. But yeah, Cannon cart is good in Mortar decks. It's not really found much of a place in many other decks, but in Mortar it really is strong, having that extra second form as well to protect your Mortars. I feel like Magic Archer just took a really big hit simply from the Tornado nerf, because it was really good a few months back, but now I pretty much never see Magic Archer. It doesn't really seem to make many appearances in bridge spam decks, and that one minor Magic Archer deck just does not really work well. I feel like it's a lot harder to get good Magic Archers now that people have these tanks that can kind of like dash through the arena and stuff like that, like the Boss Bandit. This is more of a prediction, guys, but I think Electro Wizard actually could be pretty strong this meta, just because it counters the Evo Inferno Dragons so well. I feel like the Evo Inferno Dragon is actually really broken, and I don't know if a ton of people will use it, because it doesn't fit in a ton of decks, but a lot of the beatdown decks I feel like might just need to have the Ewiz to be careful of facing those types of players who run the Inferno Dragon. Zap is overall just a very safe small spell, but we do have a few other small spells that have really improved in the last month or two, which we'll cover here soon. Man, oh man, guys, Archer Queen took quite the beating. I mean, first off, it's used a lot less now because other champions are used more, but second off, even beside it being a champion and getting overshadowed, I feel like it's just so weak against a lot of the meta cards. Like, against Boss Bandit, it's so difficult to get good value out of it, and a lot of the queen decks like Royal Hogs just prefer to have something like a Witch instead. Goblin Cage is a pretty decent card. It's kind of like a Goblin Hut, except it just worse. It doesn't give as many counter pushes. It does give one big counter push, but not all these little counter pushes, like the Goblin Hut does. And also the building itself of the cage has less HP. The other thing about it is that it just doesn't target air so it's not as versatile as Goblin Hut. That's really all there is to it. Minions are okay right now, but it's kind of hard to fit them in a lot of good decks because the meta decks are mostly cycle, it seems like, or just medium cost decks, but they prefer to usually have something a bit cheaper like bats instead of the 3 elixir minions. The skeleton dragons are actually pretty nice right now. They have a good amount of HP and they support stuff like Lava Hound really well. Lava Hound, I think, will take a bit of a hit though with the Inferno Dragon evolution because it fits well in Lava Hound, but it also counters Lava Hound pretty well, so I think Skelly Drags are just alright. Guys, Hunter actually got a really nice buff in the last balance changes to its first attack speed, so I think it'll be quite a bit better even without the evolution, and RG just abuses the heck out of it. Maybe a few other decks will start to use it too. It really just does get the job done against stuff like Goblin Barrels. It can full counter those. It can counter air tanks and ground tanks as well. I don't even know if I should be ranking Firecracker this high because I feel like it's so easy to counter if you're smart and use like a poison or arrows onto it. You could get a mine or you could get a free king activation off of it, but some Hog decks use it, well, most Hog decks use it, and also a few Royal Hogs decks have been using it, but in the previous meta, Firecracker decks were struggling quite a bit. I think they'll be a bit better this meta, though, after the Goblin Hut nerf. Man, Mother Witch got a big boost, actually, guys. Mother Witch is so good right now at countering all the bats, the Spear Goblins, the Goblin Hut Spear Goblins as well. There's a lot of uses right now for the Mother Witch, and it's just a really good surprise card that can sometimes insta-win you a game. Ice Wizard is not bad at all right now. It's one of the best defensive cards in the whole game, and you have a bit of versatility with that spawn and effect that can kill bats, it can reveal a suspicious bush, so it's a very nice card. A little while ago, a lot of Logbait decks weren't using Dark Goblin, but recently they have started to transition to it. The Dark Goblin just applies so much pressure that kind of forces your opponent to spell it down, and then from there you just get so much barrel damage that it doesn't even matter if you play a bait deck without Rocket, you can still basically get guaranteed damage. Electro Giant was surprisingly strong in the previous meta because a lot of decks were not running a building, but I feel like it'll be maybe even better this meta because of all the Inferno Dragon that will probably be going around. And also Goblin Hut got a small nerf, so that should help Electro Giant as well. It's a pretty solid win condition. A lot of the time, though, E-Giant decks just get their damage with Lightning or a Bowler lineup, more so than the actual E-Giant itself, but it kind of puts you in a good position to be able to get damage with your Bowler and stuff like that. The Mortar definitely has seen better days, but it's still slightly holding up. It's just that a lot of the other minor decks, like, normally people run Minor Mortar, but I feel like a lot of the other cycle decks seem to have a good matchup against Mortar right now, so that's why it's not really being used as much, and also the Cannoneer Tower kind of sucks, but a lot of the time people run Cannoneer with Mortar. The Berserker's actually not bad right now, guys. A lot of decks have stuff like the Witch in them, which makes the deck expensive, but to have a cheap tank like the Berserker is pretty valuable. Earthquake is just a pretty solid all-around option right now to stop Goblin Huts, to stop cannons. There are certain weaknesses to it though, like the Tesla. I think Hog Rider's pretty decent right now. It doesn't have the most synergy with some of the strong cards in the game, but overall it's a consistent win condition, and I think it'll perform pretty well this season. I was seeing a lot of Skeleton King Graveyard going around, but that deck kind of just decided to take out the Skelly King, completely dropping it for the night. Seems like there's better options than Skelly King, and a lot of people are playing Valkyrie to stop the Witch, and that also counters the Skelly King. Despite the change that Princess got, it's still quite good to get bridge damage, because you can't really react to it unless you're hovering a card, even after the nerf it got, and it does have that faster first attack that it got with that kind of rework a little while ago. Man, Bowler's actually really good right now. It just completely blocks the lane against like a Witch, against a Ram Rider, and it's very nice in Electro Giant, very nice in Graveyard. I quite like the Bowler in this meta. Dude, Goblin Barrel is actually so good right now, guys. I'm only not ranking it higher because we're not including the Evo Barrel, but Bait had 3 top 10 players last season using it. And it's just a very safe win condition that you can chuck at the tower at any time and never really get punished for it. The Goblin Drill should be quite good right now, but it does have some very fierce competition with the Miner and a few other cards. So it's not used a crazy amount, but it does work well with some meta cards like the Evo Snowball, so it can get pretty good damage in the right deck. As our third win condition in a row, we do have the Royal Hogs. There's just not a lot of Bomb Tower and stuff like that. There is Valkyrie, but you can always split your piggies, so I feel like you can almost always get damage using them. Ever since Cannon got a few nerfs, I feel like Tesla has made quite a step up again in the meta. It's really good to avoid lightning by playing it way up high, which you can't do with something like a Cannon, so that gives Tesla a unique advantage. Dude, I cannot tell you how many Pekka players were just complaining so much in my comment section how they killed Pekka, but last season, I believe at least like 10% of the players in the top 200 were playing Pekka Goblin Giant, and I think it'll be the same this season. It's really nice right now, and you can just build up such huge pushes that they're basically impossible to defend. Goblin Giant is right alongside the Pekka right now, guys, because it's basically always used with the Pekka in this current meta, And it's a pretty good card. It's like the Giant, except you have a bit of extra offensive potential. You can sometimes kill stuff like Firecrackers with those sneaky Spear Goblins. I think it's in quite a good spot right now. Recently, the Monk has seen a huge increase in use rate. I feel like it's just so good right now with the Hunter, and obviously with the RG it performs really nicely. But yeah, that Monk-Hunter combo, especially with the Evo Hunter, just feels unstoppable, and the Monk Reflection can kill so many popular units like the Musketeer, the Archer Queen, Dark Goblin. Bandit is a pretty good all-around card right now for bridge spam decks to run. The only reason why I'm not putting it higher is because there are some other options like the Golden Knight going around, so it's not crazily used, but it does have its use cases. We have the Balloon up next, guys, which I think will be a little bit better after the Goblin Hut nerf, and it does have really good cards to pair with it, like the Musketeer to snipe down a lot of the counters when you have that Evolution, or the Miner as well, which is really good right now, so Balloon is pretty nice. It fits in Lava Loon really well as well. I would actually put the Wallbreakers way higher up if I was counting their evolution, but because I'm not, I'm going to put them right here. Modern Wallbreakers are really broken right now, guys. It's kind of like the Bush, except you can kite stuff around using them, you can pull stuff backwards, you just get defensive value and a lot more offensive value. Dude, Snowball is genuinely broken right now. As a Hog player, I literally just can never get through this card. Anything plus a Snowball counters Hog Rider, and I assume it's the same way with a lot of other win conditions like Ram Rider or really anything else. Snowball is so good in bridge spam. And it's also quite good in stuff like Balloon too. There's a lot of use for it right now. I feel like Lava Hound is still good, guys, but it's in kind of an awkward spot because of all the Goblin Hut, and also Witch is a bit annoying for it because you can put a Lightning in a Lava Hound deck, but it just gets really expensive, so it's kind of hard to make the proper Lava Hound deck to actually counter the popular stuff in this meta. I would for sure put Valkyrie higher if I was counting the Evo, but overall, guys, Valkyrie's good for countering Piggies, it counters Witch super well. It counters almost anything that someone could throw at you. It counters Drill, you know, really just everything in the current meta it counters, and it just gets a lot of value for countering these big pushes that a lot of meta decks try to make. The Bats are actually such a good pressure card right now. You can even split them, so even if your opponent does have a Zap or Rage and Cycle, you just split them up, and then you can pressure on either side that you want to, and just have some Bats going down each lane. Man, I am glad they didn't listen to the community and buff the Mighty Miner, because people kept on saying to buff it, but it kind of just rose to fame on its own, guys. It just is such a nice card for giving that 3-card cycle for such a long time. It hard counters Beatdown, does struggle against stuff like Witch and Recruits, but the Recruits aren't popular, Witch is. Even so, guys, just the fact that it gives you the 3-card cycle for like 2 decades makes it really good in a lot of decks. Dude, Xbow is genuinely broken right now. 2 of the last 3 seasons, Xbow finished #1 in the world, and it just feels so good right now because a lot of the tanks are so bad against it. Like, Boss Bandit is so bad against Xbow. All the Xbow player has to do is go for a Knight in front of the Xbow, and that's a dead Boss Bandit. It's so much better to have something like a Knight against Xbow, but a lot of the meta players just don't really run those things much anymore. I don't think Bomber ever will not be good unless they make some really good replacement to it or give it some nerf. It's just a 2 elixir card that kind of acts like a small spell. It can counter stuff like Piggies really well, can counter Goblin Drill. It fits so well in so many beatdown decks, even in Cycle, like Goblin Drill decks, it does work really well with too, because you just Goblin Drill then Bomber to splash the tower and whatever they play to counter that drill. Barbarian Barrel is in a pretty good spot right now. It's kind of like a trade-off to where it's like a log, except it only works at a certain distance from the bridge, but you get more defensive value out of it, you get a bit of a tank out of it, so it's very nice in Graveyard, and just a lot of the beatdown decks, it is nice to have that extra barb. The Rage is actually really nice right now, guys, in Goblin Giant and stuff like that especially, but it is a little bit weaker than it used to be because Rage plus Arrows no longer kills Magic Archer or Zappies and stuff like that, so the interactions definitely are a bit worse than they used to be. Dude, if you play a Graveyard down while you have an Evo Witch on the map, the Evo Witch just never dies. And that's why Graveyard is so good right now. That's basically single-handedly why Graveyard is so good right now. The Royal Ghost is just such a good card right now. It's so good on defense, it's really good on offense. It's only 3 elixir. If it's at 1 HP, it guaranteed gets a hit on the tower. If it's at like 2 hits of damage, it gets 2 hits on the tower. It just is like the king of getting chip damage. Wow, 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 guys. Of course the Tornado is still broken even after the nerf. I remember the Tornado players were saying how Tornado is absolutely dead after the nerf, but nope, it's still used by a very big portion of top ladder players, and just everyone in the game seems to be playing Tornado still. It's just a mandatory card in a lot of beatdown decks, even a good amount of cycle decks too. It can activate your King Tower, it can pull stuff into your push to kill it. It's very good. The Electro Spirit is actually so good right now, and one of the biggest reasons is because it counters bats really easily. And it's just really good in RG, it's good in Hog Rider decks sometimes, it's good in Xbow as well. You could get a lot of value out of that chain that sometimes people don't expect. I would say the Royal Giant is one of the safest win conditions in the game. Some Cycle decks really struggle against Beatdown, but Royal Giant can beat Beatdown decks quite a bit, and also it can beat Cycle decks too. It doesn't hard counter either of them, but it's the win condition that has a great chance against really anything, and you know, you pair that with some broken cards like the Evo Hunter, the Monk, and everything like that, and pretty much nothing can stop an RG. The Fisherman is crazy good right now, not only in Royal Giant decks, but also in Goblin Giant decks. It's just a really good card for Beatdown players to run because it can activate your King Tower, it can counter Princes, it can just pull stuff into your pushes as well, kind of like a Tornado. Not quite as good as a Tornado at doing that, but it gets so much value in other scenarios that a Tornado can't. Despite the nerf that it got to the evolution, I mean, we're not even counting evolutions, but yeah, it got a small nerf to its evolution. That made it a bit less popular, the cannon. But it also got an attack speed nerf a little while ago. It seems like cannon is still really good, though. It's the most popular card to play with any Cycle deck. But there is one great contender that we're going to get to very soon. A lot of decks seem to have switched to other tanks aside from the Knight, but the Knight still remains to be a very solid card. It's only 3 elixir, whereas a lot of the other tanks are a lot more expensive, so that's the really good thing about Knight. It's very cheap, and it gets the job done, and certain decks just need a cheap tank. The Ramrod is actually a very strange card. It feels like it kind of just dips in and out of the meta. Right now, it's absolutely one of the very best win conditions in the game. It's just so consistent to get to the tower, and if it has the right support cards that are popular, it's kind of unstoppable. It's so good with Lightning right now, good with the Boss Bandit. Just everything about Ramrodder feels so good. It's good defensively, too. There's so much you can do with it. This might be a little bit of a high rating, but we have Rocket, guys. Rocket is so nice in all of these minor Rocket decks going around. It's nice in some Logbait decks, too. Not all Logbait decks even use Rocket, but it just gets so much tower damage, despite all the tower damage nerfs that it got. And it counters stuff like Spark. You can play it against the Evo Inferno Dragon and Evo Witch, and you just automatically just clear everything off of the map. It might be a little bit early to say, guys, but I think the Inferno Dragon is going to be pretty broken. Even without the evolution, though, it's still a very strong card. It's very good in Lava Hound. It's very good in certain Graveyard Freeze decks, and there's a lot of other stuff you can throw it into as well. It's pretty nice. The only way it would be bad is if Electro Wizard becomes really popular. Dude, I swear, the Spear Goblins always get on your tower no matter what. Like, you could play something literally right next to your tower, and the Spear Goblins go for your tower and not that troop that you played literally in front of your tower. It's so dumb how their targeting works. They need to fix that somehow. Right above the Spear Goblins is going to be the Goblin Gang. The Goblin Gang is really good right now. There are certain good ways to counter it, though, like Golden Knight dashes can wreck it, and they are kind of easy to predict sometimes with, like, a set of arrows or something. But there is a card that's coming up soon that isn't as easy to predict. This one is still a little bit up for grabs, guys. It's a little bit early, because Goblin Hut just got nerfed a bit ago, but I think it's definitely going to be a bit weaker now. It's going to have some worse interactions, like I think 1 Hog hit and Earthquake will fully kill it, whereas before it would take 2 Hog hits. So the HP nerf definitely will have affected it, and also the spawn speed got nerfed a little bit too, but it's overall still really good, though. It's good against Beatdown and against Cycle. It just does way too much. It doesn't feel like it should counter stuff like Princes as easily as it does. Dude, the 360 dash made Golden Knight absolutely insane, man. It's so good for countering Graveyard now. It feels so much easier to get tower damage, and when it's on your opponent's side, they can't counter it by surrounding it like they used to. The 360 dash just made a world of difference, and it's also really good for countering Evo Witch as well. Honestly, this meta is amazing for Poison. It's really good at stopping pretty much all of the meta cards, except of Evo Witch. It counters normal Witch super easily, but the Evolved Witch just heals the Witch when you try to poison it. That's the one weakness of it right now. Dude, Ice Spirit is actually crazy, guys. Ice Spirit literally made its way into Graveyard decks. Like, I've been seeing Graveyard decks running Ice Spirit now. That's how you know it's broken. I don't know what they have to do to balance it with the other spirits. Maybe they have to, once again, shorten the freeze duration just a little bit, but to be honest, I feel like there's bigger things that need a nerf than the Ice Spirit. Alright, guys, next up we have the Guards. The Guards are like the one thing that's quite a bit better than Goblin Gang right now. They're just so good for damage. They can't be predicted by any spells, really, because no spell in the game counters them, except like Poison, but it just takes so long to kill them. They're good at countering Prince. They're good at stopping Graveyard. They do it all, really. Dude, Boss Bandit is actually broken, guys. I didn't expect it to be that good, but no, it's absolutely broken in Bridgesmith. It basically carried Ramrodder to being a good card. Like, Ramrodder would be like a C-tier card right now, probably, if it weren't for Boss Bandit completely carrying the Ramrodder decks right now. And the ability's really good, too. It makes it really unpredictable, and it's hard to stop because of that. The only thing that's possibly stopping it is the Evo Witch, but you can just run Lightning in the Boss Bandit decks. Next, we do have the Fireball. It's kind of similar to the Poison, except it's a bit more of an instant option. It can sometimes help you take out Evo Witches if you time it perfectly with like a log or something. And also it can just take things off the board really quickly if you want to get like an Xbow lock or an RG connection. It's a very nice big spell. The lightning is actually so broken, guys. It basically did as much damage as a rocket, except it had a way bigger radius, but they did nerf the crown tower damage, which I think will affect it a little bit, but it's still going to be really broken. I swear, every single new card they release, or new Evo they release, is so bad against lightning. Lightning is like the only counter to it, like for example, the Evo Witch, and there's like so many other examples too, like even the Goblin Hut gets kind of wrecked by lightning, so lightning is so great right now. The skeletons are amazing, guys, but I love it. I don't think they need a nerf or anything like that. They're just a very good card to cycle, and just a small distraction. They don't have any good stats at all, but just having that cycle ability in a deck is so important. As the number 3 card, guys, we have the Miner. Miner is so good right now. It's good in Lava Hound, it's good in Miner Poison, it's good in Mega Knight Miner, it's good in Miner Magic Archer. There's like 20 other decks that it could be running. Miner is the most safe win condition in the whole game. It's 3 Elixir, and you could basically guaranteed get damage, whereas something like a Goblin Barrel, if your opponent has a lot of spells, you could really struggle, but Miner, it always can get on the tower. And now at number 2, guys, we have the Arrows spell. I'm kind of surprised Arrows is doing this well despite the radius nerf it got. I guess the radius to start with was way too big before, so despite the nerf it got, it's still really easy to hit your arrows and everything, and it just wrecks everything. It wrecks minions, it wrecks Firecracker, it wrecks archers, it wrecks Dart Goblin. You name it. And finally, guys, the number 1 card in the game right now is the Log. You just log everything and it dies. You log a Golem and it dies. You log a Goblin Barrel and it dies. Anyways, guys, that's it. Thank you for watching.